Like it or not, AI is already in every corner of your dealership. From sales to service, BDC to marketing, even in your vehicle pricing, AI is there. And now it's influencing the most important decision of all: which shoppers choose your dealership and which choose your competition. Cars.com research shows more than 70% of shoppers start shopping undecided. They don't know the make, they don't know the model, they don't know the budget, and now AI is an important influencer in today's car shopping decisions. Today, we're going inside the data and inside the mind of your shopper to understand one thing: is shopping with AI the next major shift in the car shopping process, or has the shift already taken place?
Follow the Money is brought to you by Cars Commerce, empowering local dealerships with solutions to simplify and scale their businesses.
Today, we're diving into a massive shift in the car shopping journey: AI-powered search. Our guest is Matt McDonald, Senior Director of Product Management at Cars.com. Let's start with this. A lot of dealers think AI is just another tool that still needs like some more time in the oven. It's not ready for everyday use. Let me ask you, Matt, are these people wrong, or are they dangerously wrong?
I think they're beyond wrong. I think they're incredibly wrong. These products will continue to evolve, and you need to find the right problems for which AI is the solution and start testing and iterating on those opportunities now, because if you haven't already, others are.
You've seen the data. You've watched shopper behavior in real time. What's one thing that dealers still don't understand about AI that's costing them the most money right now?
I think it's the ability for AI to bridge native language, at least in the search funnel for vehicles. A lot of people come to the site, and you kind of threw out the stat of 70% don't have a make or model understood. But I think it's even bigger than that in reality. What it means is people have problems, people have needs, and they need to turn that and articulate that into a vehicle that suits those needs. And when they're able to simply use that, we need a car to take our family on road trips, or I need a truck that can tow X amount of pounds. And you can just search for that and actually have it select the right filters to find the vehicle. That's incredibly empowering for the consumer.
You brought up already bridging native language. For all of us simpletons out here, explain as if you were describing this to a small child or a golden retriever. What are we talking about when we say native language?
If you come to any number of marketplace sites, you typically have to start searching from a brand list, a model list, a trim list, a year list. And you need to kind of have some semblance of what those things are or what those categories mean to even start a search. Natural language is simply how you and I can have a conversation, and I can tell you, here's all the things I do with my car on a daily basis. Help me convert that into an actual make, model, trim so that I can find one that fits that needs profile. LLMs have enabled us to kind of take those inputs and then map them against our own data, our own filters, and our own knowledge base over 20 years to say, this is what the customer's telling us about their needs. Let's pare that down to actual vehicles that fit that and real inventory on site.
When you say LLM, you're talking about large language models. In reality, it's the superpower behind AI. Like you said earlier, it's very, very similar, if not the same, as you and I having a conversation right now. We're talking about things like ChatGPT and Claude and Grok and Gemini and Meta AI. All of these are large language models. Basically, you can type almost anything in there. Matt, how soon do you think that prompting is not going to be a thing anymore, where you can just really just start right from the rip, just in regular, common, everyday language?
Well, I think today, in a lot of ways, at least what we've rolled out with Carson on site, there is almost zero learning curve. You can come in and search from the very top, from the get-go, put anything into that box, and we will translate that into what we believe is the right sort of set of filters around vehicle data and information that helps you get to an endpoint of a vehicle that's going to fit that need. So prompting in the traditional sense of people having to kind of manipulate what they're saying to try and get the right output from a model. We've tried to simplify that as much as possible and pair what you are saying with also your other actions on site. So maybe you've been looking at inventory, you've been searching before. Maybe we know what vehicle you have because it's in the garage. We can take all of that information, match it up with our dealer information, our inventory, and our editorial information that's been built over the course of 20 years to say, this is what they're saying. What do they really mean? And what do they need? And how does that map to a vehicle?
I love how you said traditional prompting. We're already using terms like traditional in AI because things are moving so fast that what we did yesterday is already old. And a lot of dealers, a lot of general managers, a lot of people in dealerships, they don't really understand the power of the large language model being able to type in anything about what you're looking for in a vehicle, from color to what it can do to what it can tow, and doing it all in just normal, in normal everyday conversation, as opposed to seeing a menu that has terminology in there that, let's just use a very, very conservative number and say 50% of people don't understand. They can't actually translate what certain things inside the menu, what they actually mean in real life. Go a little bit deeper into this large language and like how much power there is in that.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important, especially in something as complex as the automotive space. The product of a vehicle, right, it's made up of so many different components. And then across brands as well, you can have features that are essentially the same, but each brand calls it something slightly different. You'd have to select a filter in a slightly different way to find all of that, when all you're really just trying to say is like, I want heated seats. It's like that may tie to a various package or trim level that like you don't need to understand or want to understand, even frankly. You just want it to have heated seats and you want to search across these brands. Like, we're trying to make that easy for people because the automotive industry, I think like many others, it just likes to put its own terminology around things, likes to make things a little bit complex. And this just really helps break down those barriers for folks, especially when you just go back to that main data point, right? Like if they don't even know which make and model they want, it's highly likely they don't know anything deeper than that, i.e. like what package they want, what trim they want, what different engine model they want, like how that fits their needs or doesn't fit their needs. So these models are extremely powerful in helping pull that context out. And I think it's incredibly important for dealers to focus on what I'll put in the term of like merchandising. If you've seen, VDPs, if you've probably on sites all the time looking at listings, a lot of dealer notes sections are full of essentially lists of terminology and 3-letter acronyms and just basically regurgitating what's on the Monroney from a vehicle. Instead of saying, what does this vehicle do? How is this vehicle different? How is it important? Because that context gets pulled into these models and they can use that. We already know what the features are of the vehicle, the raw feature list, and we can now break that down. So merchandising a vehicle correctly is super important to kind of get it the right relevancy inside of the model, but also to like differentiate it. And then once the consumer makes it down there, to remain interested and see something else besides those like raw facts.
When you're talking to dealers about these types of things, Matt, are you seeing blank stares or, deer in the headlights or anything like that? Or the dealers that you're communicating with, are they really like diving in for this?
I think on the merchandising side, I think we still see a lot of dealers like pushback, if you will, to like improving listings, especially specifically for one marketplace site, just because of the amount of tools kind of used in the process. But Carson, and with the rollout of Carson and search, we've seen a ton of interest from dealers, both in how the model works, kind of how it's saying to consumers that maybe aren't putting Ford Expedition into those search menus anymore, but are seeing Ford Expeditions in their search results. Like, how did that happen? How did they get there? Was it because of my merchandising? Was it because of something else? And they're really engaged. And I think really starting to ask a lot of great questions about what are consumers looking for and how do we kind of serve those needs better. And I think that's super exciting. I sit at my role in the company and in product is very consumer side focused. And I'm a big believer in, if we build something that serves the consumer, dealers will ultimately win as well, because it's going to drive consumers downstream to the right dealers.
Yes.
And I think that's not always easy to communicate across the board on a two-sided marketplace. But with Carson, I think it's really brought them in and they're asking a lot of great questions of myself and my team, and are really engaged with how search is changing. I think that's exciting and a good sign that the dealers are picking up how seismic this shift is.
Yeah, and I think just like anything else, any other changes that we've seen, Matt, you're going to have a group that are going to be early adopters. You're going to have a group that are going to be skeptics, and then you're going to have a group that show up to the party so late that there's nothing left except, like, a couple crumbs of cake. Like, they miss the whole meal. All they get is a little bit of dessert. What are the most common things that people are asking Carson for? Like practical things, or like emotional, lifestyle, like, or are there specific queries or specific questions or things that people are putting in there? What are you seeing most from actual raw user behavior?
Yeah. To your point, we are getting more, I'll say, context than ever before, behind the searches, because it's not just those drop down menus. And I think we put in like four like main buckets that I'm seeing a lot of, which are practical searches, to your point. So it needs to be safe or have a good resale value. There's certainly emotional searches, fast or like flashy. Then I think a ton of lifestyle searches, which can kind of span a variety of different things. And then hyper specific searches as well, which I'm a car guy, and I fall into this like 1% of the market that like does know exactly what I want when I come to a site, and being able to input something like C6 Corvette just off the top, and then it choose all the filters that actually pulls together the right set of years for that is really empowering. I think that's what's exciting, kind of across these buckets, is with one tool, one set of capabilities, I think enabled both ends of the spectrum. So people that know very, very little about vehicles, but have, like I said, a specific need or lifestyle need, whatever, as well as the complete other end of the spectrum of people that know exactly what they want, and they want to even use internal designations for model types, or they have a specific VIN they want to go look up and see if it's for sale. This tool has bridged kind of across that whole thing, and it's very rare that you get to serve kind of the entire spectrum of consumers like that.
What percentage would you say people are putting in like super, super specific?
Yeah, I think it depends on how you want to define that. Today, we do still see a good amount of folks just inputting something that is specific. So like 2025 Ford Expedition, I would consider that a pretty specific search, but something that was possible in the older world of drop downs, right? Kind of the ones I'm talking about, which is a very small percentage of total searches, is where you can put in something like E36 M3. And in the past, that's not in a menu anywhere. Now we can kind of extract from kind of that natural search. What are they talking about? Oh, okay, cool. Then we need to select these filters in the back end and then show them this SRP.
Once again, that power, right, that I was referring to and that we talked about just a few minutes ago, that large language model power. The fact that you can put something in super, super specific to like a model code on BMW, for example, and at the same time, you could put in, I have a family with 3 kids and 2 dogs, and I want something that's good on gas, and that is, and that if I get in an accident, it'll be as safe as possible, and that the other moms on the car line won't make fun of me because I have like a really corny car. And then send. Everything in our society is all built around and on language and communication. The fact that there's no radio buttons, just say whatever it is that comes to your mind. Also, if the AI doesn't understand or thinks that it needs more information, it will literally ask you for the information that it needs. It will ask you the questions. 69% of consumers are saying that right now that they'll use a generic AI tool for car shopping, right? So like a ChatGPT or a Gemini, something like that. And if you're on Google, a lot of times you're using Gemini already. Your customers are are using Gemini and they don't even know they're using it. Like it's already happening right there. So as opposed to the generic, so to say, AI tools, right? Why choose Carson? Like what automotive intelligence does it have that general, like regular AI or over-the-counter AI, let's call it that, right? That it doesn't have?
No, it's a good question. I don't think it's a completely either or situation for the consumer. I think people are going to use a variety of methods to kind of go through their search, especially depending on where they are in the process, very early stage, very late stage, what tools make sense where. But Carson specifically kind of sitting on top of cars.com marketplace has a few sort of intangibles that make it unique. And that is one, its ability to see all of our inventory in real time and all of the data associated with our inventory in real time and put that up against everything in the market. The second is, we've tied it into a lot of other sources of proprietary information at Cars. So we have a ton of dealership reviews. We know obviously a ton about all the dealers out there with Dealer Rater. We've had many, many years of very strong editorial content, which helps provide a lot of context to those emotional or lifestyle type searches and has really, I think, strengthened kind of our ability to say, well, maybe the model's raw output would have been this. But with our extra data, we're actually kind of condensing it down to something further and tighter and getting a better result out of it. And then I think the third piece of it is just our ability to kind of have it all in one place. It's unique in the middle of the funnel to have a tool and someone, essentially Carson, riding along with you, helping to refine that search as you go down, providing context, providing those right next questions, and some of our upcoming iterations of Carson that go deeper into the funnel, just being that co-pilot along with the user and giving them that confidence that, hey, we know cars, we're here to help you. And ultimately you're going to arrive at the right sort of VIN for you that you can then go into that dealership and pick it up.
As you're describing this, Matt, in my mind, I'm seeing like the customer journey, so to say, like play out. And you remember the old stat that that a customer will search on will utilize like 18 different websites, 18 different points before they actually get to the dealer's website or before they actually submit a lead or anything like that. So I can see this number, and let's just say, just for conversation, that the 18 number is still in effect. All right. So I can see that 18 going to 3 and then going to 3, this like that quick. I can see it going from ChatGPT to a marketplace site and then to cars.com, starting to utilize Carson. And because of the fact that Carson is so robust and has so much information into it, I can see a shopper starting on ChatGPT or Gemini, going to maybe a marketplace website, no AI interaction, right? They're doing it the old fashioned way with the menu button, with the radio buttons and stuff. And then going to cars.com and being so comfortable in there that every time they add something else or take something away, it changes the search results. I'm no prophet. This is already happening because from my recollection of looking at the press releases from cars.com about Carson, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems as if people that use Carson are returning to cars.com twice as often. They have more vehicles saved in their cart, and they actually generate more leads. Is this true? If it is, what does this kind of behavior actually tell you about shoppers' confidence?
These data points are real, and we are seeing that increased, coming back to cars.com, increased lead conversion, increased sort of views of vehicles, more SRPs, more searches essentially happening. And I think it tells you a couple things. One, I think the increased leads number tells you that people are confident. And that's in two things largely. One, they're confident in cars.com, in having shown them the right inventory, but they're also just confident that because of this, using this mechanism, they feel like that vehicle is the thing that's going to meet their needs. And that's great to see. And then on the flip side, I think what you do have to see is probably that increased engagement first. People need to kind of see what this is, play around with it, And then you start to turn that into into leads and sort of people coming back to site. But it happened very quickly with Carson. We haven't had this out for very long. It's already about 15% of total searches on site utilize Carson. So like the adoption rate's been really high. Consumers are using it. We're working on a ton of features that add on to what Carson is today that go deeper into the process. Kind of like I said, if you think about the consumer journey on a marketplace website, we want Carson to be present in that entire funnel and help those consumers with the right information at the right place in each of those stages. The SRP, you need to get context about all of the vehicles we're showing and why this is the right group and set to look at. But when you're on the VDP, you might need to know something even more specific about that given VIN or how it relates to you and how you could see it fitting into your life. That's really also I think the secret sauce, if you will, of Carson, or what we're able to feed back as sort of reinforcement learning, to call it, into the models, is after people use this, what do we now know about them? They said they wanted a large SUV, but really their site behavior says they want something smaller. So we asked them that question and they're like, oh, actually, no, I do. And so now you know something more and you can show them better results and continue to feed that into the model. So the personalization for any given consumer with this tooling also greatly expands beyond anything we've been able to do in the past. And that's super exciting for me and the team to just continue iterating on and give everyone that personalized experience when they're shopping for a car, which is what they really want. That's why people still want to go to dealerships at the end of the day. They want to talk to someone about this car. But if we can help in the upper funnel during search process, we're going to continue to find ways to do that.
I love it. It's almost as if, and this is really creepy, okay? So walk with me for a second here. It's almost as if you have the ability to be able to turn on everybody's camera and everybody's microphone and listen to the conversation and watch the conversation take place about shopping for a car, about what's really important to them and everything. Because once again, I'm going to go back to it again, Matt, because of the large language model, because of the fact that people are going to type in the way that they would think in their mind, right? When they talk to themselves, the way that they talk to themselves in their minds, they're going to type that in. It's as if you're in the room and you're actually listening to what is being said. It is so dramatically powerful. I think it's so powerful. This is why most people can't even get it. This just doesn't register. They can't see what we see because we're working in it every single day. Would you agree?
Totally. And it's something, we didn't even get to see it until we saw it. We knew when a search started. We knew when someone was in the market because they came to site and they, choose 3 little drop downs and said, I'm looking for a Ford F-150 2025. And we're like, okay, cool. This person's in market and that's probably what they're looking for. There was a conversation though, to your point, that person with their friend or their spouse or whatever, where they arrived at, this is what we're going to go and put into one of these marketplace sites to start our search. We now get to see that whole upper side of that conversation of well, what were the considerations? What do they want to do with this vehicle? Why is this the one that they're going to start choosing and looking at? Now we can see all of that. And I think that helps us help them find something down that exact path or something different that they wouldn't have considered and then therefore wouldn't have input in a traditional search model.
What action items should dealerships take right now to make sure that they show up properly inside Carson's AI results? And I'm going to throw an extra one at you, Matt. Also inside of Gemini and ChatGPT, right? And Claude and all those. What should they fix, or what is it that they should be looking at? Is it inventory tagging, listing quality? We already talked about the vehicle descriptions. What else is it that they should be looking at?
No, it's a great question. Similar to how we said, we've made this very easy for the consumer, right? There's no kind of learning curve to it. There's nothing the consumer needs to do differently other than just tell us what they want. It's actually very similar for the dealer. There's nothing that they need to do per se to get included in Carson search results, to get the benefit of Carson on their inventory other than be a marketplace participant. So certainly be on Cars Marketplace with your inventory and have all of your inventory listed. But the next pieces would really just be, I think merchandising is incredibly important for the consumer, because once your vehicle gets shown to a consumer, especially one that's, I think, using AI search, their belief that that's the right vehicle I think increases. And if it then doesn't show well on the VDP side, that's going to be to your detriment. So I think merchandising is incredibly important. The other thing that's important is, in part of being in the cars ecosystem is leveraging things like DealerRater and having reviews, consumer generated content about your dealership. We obviously showcase that on the VDPs themselves, but that content is super rich for foundational LLMs outside of just Carson. So we see that stuff getting picked up all across kind of this spectrum, and people, those dealerships getting called out, and our data being utilized to kind of do that. DealerRater's been around for a long time, has a lot of trust in the industry, has tons of reviews, and it's incredibly important when people get to that bottom of the funnel and they're like, I think I do want this car. They also are going to ask, do I want to buy it from this dealership? And showing up correctly there is incredibly important. What we do see is inventory that gets positioned to consumers that are using Carson from dealers with higher ratings does better. And consumers trust other consumers, i.e. like the people that made those ratings, and want to see and want to learn about who they are buying from in addition to the vehicle that they are buying.
People are going to ChatGPT and they are typing in, like, what is the best place to buy a Subaru Outback near Colts Neck, New Jersey? Like, that is happening at a tremendous rate, to the point of where in our company with our dealer partners, we are completely optimizing websites now, not just for SEO, but for all of those AI queries, all those AI questions, because if not, you're not going to show up. Or you're gonna leave it to chance. I don't want that. But every single time that that I will do, like, test prompts, for example, I will see it come back saying, with quotes, with actual quotes from reviews online, and a lot of them are DealerRater and of course Google, but I'm seeing a lot of DealerRater ones on there, on there as well. So once again, right, it's kind of funny with all the new technology, right, Matt, we still wind up at the basics. Just take care of your customer, reduce or eliminate the friction as much as possible, be extremely informative, and it winds up paying off in so many different things that you can, that some things that you can see and touch, and some things that you can't see and touch, because a lot of times for every one customer that comes in and says, oh, I was on ChatGPT and they said that you were a great place to buy a Jeep Grand Cherokee, there are probably 10 other people that transacted because they saw it. So Matt, let's wrap it up with this. If you're leading a dealership right now, your money's on the table, your time invested, and you already know that AI is about to redefine how shoppers search, how they decide, how they pick where they're going to buy everything. What's the first 3 things that you would do to fix or upgrade before the new year hits? The first 3 things that you would do.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important to empower your employees and the people that are running the dealership to have ideas about how to improve processes or look for solutions that AI can help with. You don't have to cram it into everything. It's not the golden answer to every problem under the sun, but there are certain cases where it's incredibly useful. So test those things out. Don't let great be the enemy of good. 2, be looking for ways to add value to the consumer. I think more than ever, and to your last point, we're going back to basics in a lot of ways. And these models are really just helping expose that. I think what's true is people have played a game of keywords and tags to things for a long time to try to get relevancy inside of search. And AI, I think, helps cut through a lot of that noise and says, well, is what's written there actually valuable in answering the question that is being posed of me? And so we want to make sure that, like, the data that's on the site is correct, is relevant, is not biased, is also inclusive of user-generated content that adds credence and value and importance to that, because these models do pick up on that. And then the third thing, I think, is have your inventory on cars.com and take part in our broader ecosystem of tools that help do these things. Like I said, DealerRater, DI websites, and marketplace specifically, because you will get the benefit of other organizations also working on AI to improve your business by way of taking part in our marketplace. I think that's that's a great couple of things to do, kind of that can all be done before the end of the year.
AI isn't coming for the car business. It's already here. It's shaping decisions long before the customers ever touch your showroom floor. The dealers who win next aren't the ones who are waiting to see what's going to happen or see how it's going to play out. No, friends, they're the ones who are adapting. They are the ones who are adopting, and they're doing it right now. So take the insights, take the data, take the truth, and use it. Because the future isn't ahead of us, my friends. It's happening in real time. It's happening right now. You can see even through this program, we're already calling certain parts of AI traditional AI. What in the world is that, right? It's things that are new are already getting old. All of this is happening in real time. And as always, my friends, it's up to you. Either you make the money or you start to follow the money so you can make the money. And from watching this show, I know that's exactly what you're doing. You're following the money. Matt, anything that you want to leave them all with?
Hey, my team always open to feedback. These tools are out there. They're available. Please go and try them. Use them. Try and break them. Tell us what's working, what isn't, what you'd like to see different. We are listening. We are watching. And we love to get feedback from all of our dealers to kind of improve everything we're doing on the marketplace.
Most people don't tell you to go and try to break their tools, okay? But Matt just did, and I know that he means that 100% sincerely because of the fact that all that gentleman right there, all he wants to do is just get better. That's it. And just make it better and better and better for consumers. My friends, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, brand new episodes air every single Tuesday. Don't be left behind. Make sure you follow the money. We'll see you next time.